Would it be unusual for Israel to explore the potentially deploying, or at least exploring this kind of avenue to try to get eyes on the ground, especially in a covert way, to try to independently confirm the status of Iran's nuclear program?
Yeah, so good morning and thanks for having me on. I think it is quite remarkable, given the distance here. We're talking about the shortest possible distance is around 750 miles, but I think it's fair to assume that Israeli special forces, they operated far beyond that, and that is indeed pretty unprecedented. I think you're correct. They are now back home and safe. Otherwise, I don't think that the Israeli chief of staff would have spoken about it, because that would, of course, been jeopardizing them. And I think it's safe to assume that Israel had various capabilities deployed on the ground. We remember seeing the movie of the Mossad agents operating during the first hours of the June 13. And now the IDF is revealing that additional assets, together with Mossad agents who were scattered all around Iran, but military assets were there. Now, regarding having boots on the ground to verify now, that I think is doubtful. I don't think that that is something that Israel would be risking, because now it's a different security environment, and to have boots on the ground now for the purposes of verification isn't something that I think is likely. I think Israel is doing BDA using other means, listening to the Iranians, using various technological tools, communications, computers, cyber, and of course looking at things from the air with drones and with satellites and a few other sources.
Yeah, just to emphasize that last point, we have heard those reports of the Israeli regime essentially hunting down any potential vulnerability right now within their country.
The Iranians, yes.
Correct, yeah. The Iranians. Now, in terms of the Israeli intelligence, I'm wondering, Jonathan, what does that tell us right now about the current state of Iran's nuclear program?
So what Israeli intelligence is, busy and focusing on is to collect as much as possible information, reliable, non-political information, if you will, to really assess the amount of damage that was done holistically to Iran's nuclear weapons program, not to one certain facility. I know that there's been lots of talk about certain specific facilities, Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan, which is where the American bombers and Tomahawk missiles struck. But what Israel is doing is taking a broader look and trying to understand how deep and how substantial the damage was. And so far, and these are not final conclusions, but so far, the professional assessments of Mossad, IDF, and the Israeli Atomic Agency, which are three independent bodies, is that there was systemic and long-term damage inflicted. I haven't heard an estimate yet if it's many, many months or years, but I think that the initial feedback within the Israeli professional system, not amongst politicians, is that the operation was successful when it comes to dialing back the Iranian nuclear weapons program.
Jonathan, if we could just shift our attention to the other conflict, Israel's war with Hamas. Does Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now count on more support, given the actions of the last 2 weeks, to give him perhaps more freedom to revisit not only a peace deal in Gaza, but also to get the rest of the hostages home?
I think Israelis are hoping and praying for some kind of halo effect, that Hamas, which is a proxy of Iran, sees that Iran was defeated by Israel, and that they understand that continuing the war, continuing to hold on to hostages and creating the suffering is a bad thing for them, and that they would surrender, give up the hostages, and end the war. Many people are hoping for that. I think Israel is getting ready to apply more military pressure in order to impress that upon Hamas. But I have to say that I'm not very optimistic about it, because Hamas's decision-making so far, they have not had the interest of Palestinians close to heart, and they have shown extreme cruelty. And to be honest, they're very irrational. So I don't know if this will be the case. I hope that it will be the case, because I definitely would see, continued suffering end in Gaza. I think that Israel is ready to move on, to start the day after in Gaza, to bring in lots of food, assistance, and to start rebuilding. None of that is possible as long as Hamas remains in power. And the sooner Hamas surrenders, the better for everybody, specifically for Palestinians.
Yeah, no doubt. Across the board, interests are high. Jonathan Conricus, as always, we really appreciate your perspective, your analysis. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Of course.